Top 10 Blender shortcut keys you must know. The very first shortcuts you need to know are the G, R, and S keys. These are your basic transform tools. G stands for grab. It lets you move objects around in your scene. For example, if you have a table, select and press G and simply move your mouse to place it somewhere else. Left-click to confirm, or right-click to cancel or escape. R is rotate. Press R and your object will rotate. Move your mouse and you'll see the angle changing. S is scale. Press S and you can make your object bigger or smaller instantly. Now here's the really powerful part. You can lock movement to an axis. For example, press G, then immediately press Z. Now the object only moves up and down on the Z-axis. The same works with X and Y. You can even combine them. For example, G plus Shift plus Z moves the object only along X and Y. Ignoring Z, these three shortcuts are the foundation of Blender. Honestly, 90% of the time when you're working, you'll be pressing G, R, and S without even thinking. The second shortcut is Shift plus A, which opens the Add menu. This is how you bring new objects into your scene. When you press Shift plus A, you'll see a menu pop up. From here, you can add different things. Under Mesh, you'll find basic shapes like cube, sphere, cylinder, cone, and so on. For example, let's press Shift plus A, then Mesh, and choose UV sphere. Instantly, a sphere appears in your scene. You didn't have to go through the top menus or search through buttons. It's right there at your fingertips. If you're doing any kind of modeling, you'll constantly be adding new shapes, and Shift plus A makes this incredibly fast. Shortcut number 3 is Tab, and this one is absolutely essential. Tab lets you switch between object mode and edit mode. In object mode, you treat the entire object as a whole. You can move it, scale it, or rotate it, but you can't change its geometry. When you press Tab, you go into edit mode. Now you can edit the object's individual parts, its vertices, edges, and faces. Press Tab again, and you're back in object mode. You'll use this shortcut constantly, because Blender's workflow is all about switching between modes. If you're modeling, you'll be pressing Tab hundreds of times per project. Number 4 is a lifesaver. Control plus Z and Shift plus Control plus Z. Control plus Z is undo. If you make a mistake, maybe you moved an object too far or deleted the wrong face, just press Control plus Z, and Blender takes you one step back. Shift plus Control plus Z is redo. This brings back the step you just undid. One extra tip. Blender also has something called Undo History. You can find it under Edit Undo History. It shows a list of all your recent actions, and you can jump back multiple steps at once. Trust me, you'll use Control plus Z constantly because mistakes are part of learning. And with undo and redo, you never have to worry about messing up your work. Shortcut number 5 is Control plus Space, which maximizes your current workspace. Here, how it works. Let's say you're working in the 3D viewport, but you also have other panels like Outliner or Shader Editor open. Sometimes those panels get in the way. If you press Control plus Space, your current editor, for example, the 3D viewport, expands to fill the whole screen. Press Control plus Space again, and everything goes back to normal. This is really handy when you want to focus on modeling, texturing, or rendering without distractions. It makes you feel like you're zooming in on your work. Shortcut 6 is actually two related ones. Shift plus D and Alt plus D both are for duplicating objects, but they work differently. Shift plus D makes a full duplicate. It's an independent copy. If you change one, the other stays the same. Alt plus D, on the other hand, makes a linked duplicate. That means if you change one object's shape, the other updates automatically. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're modeling a classroom with many chairs. If you use Shift plus D, every chair is separate and you'd have to edit each one individually. But if you use Alt plus D, all the chairs are linked. Change the seat on one and all the others update at once. So Shift plus D is good for unique objects, and Alt plus D is great when you want multiple copies of the same thing. Shortcut number 7 is Shift plus Tab, which turns snapping on and off. Snapping makes it easier to place objects precisely. With snapping enabled, objects can snap to vertices, edges, faces, or even the grid. For example, let's say you're placing a cube on top of a table. If snapping is off, you might place it slightly above or below by accident. But if you turn on snapping, the cube will stick exactly to the top face of the other cube. You can change the snapping mode at the top of the viewport, choosing between vertex, edge, face, and more. This is especially useful in modeling, architecture, or any project where accuracy matters. Shortcut 8 is Ctrl plus A, which applies transforms. In Blender, when you move, scale, or rotate an object, those changes are stored as values. For example, you might scale a cube to twice its size, but Blender still thinks its scale is 2, not 1. If you add certain modifiers or do shading, this can cause problems. That's why we use Ctrl plus A to apply the transform. When you apply scale, Blender resets the scale back to 1, but the object keeps its new size. The same goes for rotation and location. This shortcut is super important before adding modifiers, exporting models, or working with physics simulations. It keeps everything clean and avoids weird issues. Shortcut 9 is the slash key on the numpad, which activates local view. When you're working on a complex scene with many objects, it can get overwhelming. Local view hides everything except the object you currently have selected. For example, if you have a full environment with dozens of objects, but you just want to edit one chair, select it, press slash, and now only the chair is visible. Press slash again and everything comes back. This shortcut is a lifesaver when your scene gets cluttered, and you just want to focus on one model at a time. Finally, shortcut number 10 is the Z key. When you press Z, you get a shading pie menu. This menu lets you instantly switch between different viewport shading modes. Wireframe to see just the edges of your mesh. Solid for a basic shaded look. Material preview to check how materials look with lighting. And rendered to see your scene with full lighting and rendering. This shortcut is incredibly useful because you'll constantly switch between shading modes while working. For example, use wireframe to select hidden vertices, then jump back to solid to continue modeling, and finally check rendered to preview the lighting. Instead of clicking icons at the top, Z makes it instant. And that wraps up my list of the top 10 Blender shortcut keys you should know. If you practice these shortcuts, you'll find that you can work much faster and with fewer clicks. They'll become second nature the more you use them.